So speaking of that, I want to talk to you about your Safari ad because how many of you had issues doing that homework if you updated to 2020 or had to do some digging? Just one? Okay. There were some issues. How many of you did it in 2020 in the new version?
I don't know.
Okay, you don't know. So, okay. One thing was the border around the elephant picture. In the book it says 20 points, but when you're typing in, you probably had 20 or 50 pixels, px. Px is a tiny little thing. A point is bigger. 72 points is 1 inch tall. So 50 points is, pretty 2/3 of a inch, pretty big. So what you had to do in that one was, type in pt rather than px, so it understood that change. And the other thing was the gradient. All these new gradients are there. So in the demo, he showed how the legacy gradients, or all the legacy things, are still there, but you just have to activate them. So we're going to actually all upgrade in here to 2020, and I'm going to show you that process. So if you have not already done so, let's log in and upgrade to the newest version of Photoshop. If you happen to hit select all, it's going to start updating all the software that's on this unit, so don't do that. Just stop the ones and worry about this unit for right now, and this software, not everything else.
Do I want to hit remove old version?
No, that's a good question. I would recommend, and so do the experts, not removing the old version yet, because if there's any glitches or problems, and let's say this is your life, you're working with this, you're going to want to be able to go back to 2019 and get the job done and off to the printer, right? Rather than troubleshooting all day long. So they say leave that version activated for a while until we're sure all the kinks are worked out and you have time to be comfortable. You can always go back and get it. You can actually download old versions in that control panel too, if I could ever get logged in and show it to you. And then there is an auto update feature that I assume a lot of you had turned on that forced the 2020 update and you didn't even realize it was happening. So that's an option that you can turn off in the future and just do updates on your own, by your own choice rather than it happening. It's not a bad thing to always get the newest, but I think it's nice to have the fallback of the old version that you're used to, especially in times of time crunch. Like I could see this happening and me having an ad due that day at noon and all my tools look different and crying and being very stressed out. So come on, Adobe. So what I did want to share with you guys, I'm just going to make a new document real quickly here and print letter. Okay. The idea of a few of you that worked in 2020 told me that the gradients, you couldn't find the gold gradient anymore to do that Safari ad. And that's kind of true because, of course, all these new gradient swatches showed up. So what I want to mention to you and what they said in that video is that if you go into the actual panel for whatever you're working on, symbols, gradients, whatever, I'll go to gradients. Here's the panel. I'll just pull it out here. Here's the new one. And as we scroll through, I don't see the legacy folder like they talked about. But if you go to this menu up at the top right of any panel, about towards the bottom, you're going to see legacy. Legacy means old version. So legacy gradients. And if we spin this open, there's the one, those are the ones that we're used to seeing. So in that tutorial, it talked about going into metals, and then one of these is the gold one that you needed to find. So I can assume then in window brushes, hopefully the same thing will exist. Here's the panel, and we can go to legacy brushes, and it says, do you want to restore that list? Say yes, and hopefully that's where all of our old brushes are. Symbols, the legacy symbols, we could get back to the arrows and the copyright and the hearts and diamonds that we saw before. So here's my biggest tip for you guys as we continue through the semester in this and Illustrator. When I'm reading things that don't exist anymore, guess what I'm going to do? Like when it says go here, click here, and it doesn't exist. Who's my best friend? Internet, Google. All you have to do is type in very literally, where did the gold gradient go in Photoshop 2020? And that's what I did last night trying to troubleshoot for an online student. Where did it go? And eventually I found, hey, legacy, it's all there. You just need to turn it back on. So be very specific in your questions. Where did this tool go? Or how do I blah, blah, blah in Photoshop 2020? Be specific so you get directions for it. All of us are going to be doing that for the rest of our lives. So instead of saying, I can't do the homework, Brenda, make a better video and show me how to do it. We're all in this together right now. We're all floundering around trying to figure out the new version. So you're going to have to take on some critical thinking skills, troubleshooting, and Google shall be our best friend, I promise you. Anything else concerning, or we're all up to 2020 now? We're all new and on that version? Okay, good. The chapter that we're going to do today, I prepped a few days ago using 19. So I don't know what's going to happen to us right now with 2020, but I do know that it's a pretty cool chapter. We're going to do chapter 10, painting with the mixer brush. And because of that, I have to go get the key. It's not on my cart, but we're all going to use the Wacom tablets because we're going to be painting. It's going to be a lot easier with the pen than with the potato. The mouse, as I call a potato. Painting with this, not so easy. Plus, if the drivers are installed correctly, our Wacom tablets are tilt sensitive and pressure sensitive. So depending on how we angle our brush, we'll get different strokes just like we would with a true paintbrush. And the harder we push, sometimes you get more flow of paint, or with an airbrush especially. So I have to march back to the office